Something very related to what we're discussing. That's by looking at one of the first issues of today, which is debt, they say, is a financial termite that consumes one's income. That Nigeria spends 89% of its revenue on debt servicing is a clear example, and the situation may get worse for the country. The International Monetary Fund has warned that the federal government may spend nearly 100%, that is all of its revenue on debt servicing by 2026. Now, the IMF resident representative for Nigeria, Ari Aisen, who raised the alarm in Abuja while presenting the report on Sub-Saharan Africa Regional Economic Outlook, also warned that with fuel subsidy, payments averaging 500 billion naira monthly, the total expenditure on subsidy could hit a record 6 trillion naira by the end of 2022. PKO, tough days ahead if we failed to get it right.
Yes, we've been talking about this for some time, and people will tell you that our debt to GDP ratio is tidy, no cause for concern, always talking about debt to GDP ratio. And my own concern has always been that we should look at our debt to revenue ratio. That is much better than talking about debt to GDP ratio. America, Japan, they can talk about debt to GDP ratio. Mm-hmm. But for us as a country, we have to look at our capacity to pay. It begins to hurt the economy. You know, taking loans does not necessarily hurt the economy. It begins to hurt the economy when your capacity to repay begins to shrink. It then means that a lot of public expenditure will have to be financed by taking loans. When your revenue becomes insufficient to take care of such public expenditure, like fixing roads, building a new infrastructure, and all that. We live in a season of constantly expanding public expenditure. But we can't have a situation in which, as the public expenditure is expanding, our debt stock too is expanding. That's something to be worried about. Now, as it's expanding, your capacity to generate revenue must expand, because you want to pay back from the revenue that you earn. Where you find it difficult to pay back with the quantum of revenue that you earn, or where a huge portion of the revenue that you earn goes to debt servicing rather than providing infrastructure and other needs, then the country has to be worried. You have to be worried, because that is a very, very bad danger signal. And we are approaching that already. In sub-Saharan Africa, Nigeria, the average in terms of debt to revenue, debt to GDP ratio, the average is 20%. In the case of, the revenue to GDP ratio, the average is 20%. In the case of Nigeria, we are doing just 5%. That is why everyone should be worried, because these debts are denominated in foreign currency. Mm-hmm. Your revenue, apart from your exports and all that, your revenue denominated in naira.
That's a far cry.
By the time you convert what you get from the ports and other revenue generating agencies, to the dollar, it makes it look like you have not done enough, but you've actually worked hard. So with the naira itself sliding in terms of its value, what goes to debt servicing from our revenue will continue to expand.
That's
where we find ourselves. Those who are saying, look, let us slam a brake on this constant borrowing, they are not fools. Yeah. It's because they can see the quantum of revenue going simply to servicing debt. And we are not earning, it's not, from oil, for example, it's not as if we are not earning good money. But even the subsidy that we continue to pay is chipping away at what we are earning from oil. That's why we are supposed to be jubilant at this time that Russia is fighting Ukraine. Since February they've been there, they've not been able to win. We are supposed to be
cashing on.
Yes, yeah. But we are spending on the average 500. We are projected to spend up to 5 trillion.
6 trillion.
6 trillion. 6 trillion this year alone on debt servicing. I mean on fuel subsidy. On fuel subsidy. Yeah. So what should make us happy that we are earning money from oil? The subsidy is taking it away. So we have got to rethink our strategy. We can't just continue to take these loans. And then we also need to improve on our revenue generating capacity so that at least we can have enough to pay our debts. Otherwise, a time will come when we will even take loans to pay debts.
All right. Before I come to you, we've got Tunde joining us from Kaduna. Tunde, please make your points quickly.
Yeah, good afternoon, please.
Good afternoon.
Yes, Mr. Abajide, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, sir. You can see from what we're seeing now, all these so-called ministers clamoring for infrastructure, you can see their intention. All the infrastructural development is not for the interest of the country, rather their own interest, which is making them now they want to be president at our own detriment. Because you cannot imagine somebody who knows what debt problem is, accumulating such type of debt for a nation like Nigeria. At the end of the day, what do we have to show for the infrastructural development? Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much, Tunde, from Kaduna. Thank you. Well, it's just one thing. Following what Tunde said and the analysis of Mikhail, we used to believe that the developed economies of this world, they actually go about borrowing to, add to their development, to, enhance whatever it is that they have. But that's ironic in the case of Nigeria. It looks like borrowing doesn't go our way.
Well, what we have seen from all of this analysis is when you borrow, and you borrow in order to make more money, it's good borrowing. But when you borrow in order to feed, whether you are feeding the population or you are feeding the ego of some people,
such as recurrent expenditures or something like that,
you begin to see that the money we have borrowed is not to yield interest or to get any form of advantage. We're only borrowing in order to keep ourselves going. You can see this at the state level, where some governors now are unable to pay salaries. It's one of the huge signs that we're getting into trouble. Some states hardly go home with anything by the time the monthly distribution by the Federal Accounts Allocation Commission, their committee, is done. And that's to show you that those who are borrowing, the developed nations, what they have done is to ensure that they are manufacturing. We are just a consuming nation. We bring in everything. We have crude oil, we take it out to manufacture. To refine. We bring it in, we pay subsidy to marketers because they have to take it from the point of arrival around the country. And then at what cost? Because we don't want Nigerians to complain, we don't want to put too much burden on the people. We have to subsidize. So we still have to get back to the point where we have to realize that a nation that does not manufacture that is not earning income at a very huge level is going to be in trouble. We've been talking about Jet A1. If we refine our crude here, we shouldn't be having issues. If we refine our crude here, we shouldn't be having issues with kerosene. Gas is something that we flare a lot in this country. We shouldn't, I mean, a kg of gas shouldn't be at the rate it is now. But we are not manufacturing. We are bringing in virtually everything. And until we get to the point where we see that, like BKO said, we're able to generate enough revenue at a cost that is close or at par with the dollar, where you can begin to say, okay, the naira is exchanging for maybe 2 naira to $1, or 5 naira to $1, then you can begin to boost the foreign pocket. You can't increase it. Rather, what we have is continuous diminishing of our money, which is not healthy for the country. We must get back to the point where we begin to manufacture. And one of the starting points would be for us as a country to work on our electricity. Let it be stable.
Hang on, we've got Abubakar from Kano joining us. Abubakar, the ball is in your court now.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, let me just make some little contributions to what you are discussing now. You see, as a consumer nation, before you even start thinking of borrowing, you have to make a critical analysis on what you want to do and what you need. In some cases, you only use what you have to get what you want. If you're a consumer nation, you said you will continue borrowing. You will continue borrowing without critically examining. Would it be good for the nation? Would it be good for the generation to come? If not, drop it. It's not just always good to please the president. If he sends a proposal to borrow, you just approve it. Because you are, in the same party with him. That is not doing well for the nation. Unless you are borrowing to put the money in a productive sector, that is industrial sector. Be it energy, be it productive, where you produce, you sell. But when you only borrow, you just continue consuming, you will be in danger. You will be in danger. This is my little contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Just quickly round off your thought. We need to raise on.
If, for instance, we get electricity right, we are going to reduce a lot of cost on manufacturing. A lot of our industry will stop using diesel. Our artisans will go less to the petrol stations for fuel to power their generators and all the rest. And then we also have to look at a political system. We have to reduce the cost of running a democracy. It's too expensive.
All right. Well, so many things for us to do, and we believe that that's the reason why we're always sitting here to talk about lasting solutions, to prefer lasting solutions for those in authority to, to take it and do the right thing all the time.